Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, we will discuss about Azure Privileged Identity Management. What is it? Azure Privileged Identity Management is a premium service that allows you to provide just-in-time access to any privileged role, which means any administrator role in your Office 365 environment or your Azure environment. It can limit for how long an end user can have access to a privileged role. You can enforce multi-factor authentication prior to activating a privilege role. You can enable an approval process. You can get notifications each time a privilege role is activated. You also have the ability to report on privilege role activation. Why you need it? The main reason behind the introduction of Azure PIM is to reduce attack surface. Imagine your company having far too many global administrator accounts, and one of these accounts get compromised. A malicious attacker can gain access permanently to your environment and cause huge damage. Now, one other thing about having Azure PIM in your environment is it allows you to monitor the activation of these roles, and you can enforce users to provide justification why they may need access to these roles. And it is on case-by-case basis. Users are only activating these roles when and if required, which reduces your attack surface significantly. In order to get Azure Privileged Identity Management in your environment, you need to have Azure AD Premium P2 license. This can be purchased as a standalone in your Azure environment, or if you've got Office 365, you can add an additional license which gives you Azure AD Premium P2 license, such as Mobility and Security E5 or Microsoft 365 E5 license. Now let's go ahead into a real life scenario. I will show you how to assign a user to a role so the user becomes eligible to activate a privileged identity managed role. And also I will show you from a user's perspective how to activate a role. Okay, so I have logged into my Azure environment as the global administrator. Now, since I've used Azure AD Privileged Management before, it shows up here. But if it doesn't, and this is the first time that you're using it, click on the search bar, start typing Azure Privileged Identity Management, and it will show up in the results. Click on that, and if this is the first time that you're accessing it, this is still, or even for the second time that you're accessing it, this is still the home page that you're going to see. If you come in here and basically click any of these options, the service is going to get activated for you. So there's no special button that you have to click to enable the Azure AD Privileged Identity Management. Just visiting this page in itself and clicking on one of these options is going to activate the feature for you. Even that, of course, you've got a Azure AD Premium 2 license. Now let's go into Azure AD roles. And click on Assign Eligibility. Now in here, you will see a list of all available administrator roles. In this example, I'm going to assign the role for Teams Administrator for one of my test users. So I'm just going to go ahead and search for Teams and then select Teams Administrator role. Now at the moment, this user has got access to it. That means this user is eligible for this role. If this user wanted to activate the Teams Administrator role, he or she can go ahead and request approval because the approval process is enabled. If the approval process was not enabled, the user can directly activate the role themselves. So let's just go ahead and add an assignment. I'm going to select a new user. All done. Click Next. Now in this setting, you can have the eligibility assigned to the user permanently, which means the user will be eligible to request activation for this Teams administrator role indefinitely. The eligibility does not expire, but if you only want the end user to have eligibility for this role for a certain time frame, you can just untick this and select a custom time as you desire as well. But in this example, I'm just going to leave it as permanently eligible. Click assign. It can take a few seconds to save. And once it's saved, you will see the user appearing in here. As you can see now, we've got the user in here. Now, if you wanted to remove a user from being eligible for a particular role, just like I did before, you can follow the same process, select the role and come in here and remove the eligibility in here as well. If you want to update any settings or add anything else to the eligibility, you can do that in here as well. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how this user can activate. Actually, before doing that, I'm going to show you a couple of other settings. This is very important. So in role settings are the customizable settings for this particular role. Now, let's give it a few seconds. As you can see, the maximum duration, this is for how long a user can have access to this role once they activate the role. So it's 8 hours by default, but if you want, you can increase it or decrease it. Require justification on activation. This basically gives you a text box as the end user to provide a reason why you would want to activate this role each time you are going to activate it. You can enable this setting to allow another text box basically, so you can put your ticket information if that's something that you want to do. On activation, require Azure MFA, that's enabled by default. Now, because I did set this up previously, I set the required approval to activate to yes, but by default, this will be set to no when you're doing it for the first time. Now, let me just click edit and show you. At the moment, I've set myself as the approver, but you can, when you're testing, you can come in here and play with the settings and see what works best for you. So I'm just gonna close that. Now in here also, you've got some other settings in terms of notifications of who to be notified when a role is activated and so forth. So just have a look around and come in here, have a look around and see how you want to be notified or what kind of a setup that you want in terms of notifications. But basically, this setting is the core setting for that particular role. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it. And now I will log in as the end user and show you how it's going to look for me. All right, so this is my standard user account. This user account does not have any administrator roles assigned to it. It's just a standard account. And this is my basically home page when I log into portal.azure.com. So I'm going to go ahead and look for privileged identity management. Okay, and you have to go to my roles. And here it will show you what are the roles that your administrator has assigned to you for eligibility. All right, just remember, these are the roles that you're eligible. And if you want to activate them, of course, as you can see, you've got the activate button next to them. You can go ahead and activate them. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and activate Teams administrator role. It can take a couple of seconds. Just going to enter a reason in here and click activate. Now at this stage, if you did not have any approvals set up, this is all you have to do. It's going to activate the role for you, and all you have to do is log out and log back in for the changes to kick in, and that's it. But because I've got approvals enabled in this role, I'm going to show you as the administrator how you can approve a certain request. So I'm just going to go ahead to my administrator account and open my Outlook. Now, one more thing that I forgot to mention was that each time you, as the administrator, assign or allocate eligibility to a role for a particular user or a group of users, you are going to get this confirmation assignment type eligible with the time and date and everything important that you may want to keep for your record keeping purposes. Now, be aware that the email approval email can take a couple of minutes to come through. I'm just going to go ahead and refresh. All right, so it seems like I've just received the request. So this is how it's going to look like as the administrator or the approver. You're going to get emails like this each time a user requests to access an administrator role. Just go ahead and click approve. From your end also, you will be required to provide justification. Let's just wait. It can take a couple of seconds to come through. So just select the role that you're approving, click approve. So this is your justification. Just going to say testing PIM and confirm. Voila, that's it. And your job is done. So now let's log back into the user's account. And I'll show you how, as the end user, you will see the administrator for Teams administrator panel. So just go into portal.office.com and just going to click administrator panel, and in here I'm just going to click show all administrator admin centers, and as expected I can see Teams being active. Now in the next clip I'm going to show you how to assign a group membership using Azure PIM. It's the latest feature that's been introduced by Microsoft, which may or may be beneficial for your organization. I'll show you how that works. Let's just go ahead, and I'm going to go to my administrator account, which is this one, and here I'm just going to go into Azure Active Directory so I can quickly create a basic group and I can show you how it works. Okay, I'm in the wrong place. Groups. I'm going to create a new group, so I'm just going to call this test 2. Just leave everything as it is. I'm just going to enable this so you allow to assign Azure AD roles for the entire group, and that can also be beneficial, which will reduce the overhead if you've got multiple users who want access to multiple roles in Azure PIM. You can basically create a group like this and assign roles to the group, and each member in that group will get access to all those roles instead of assigning one role at a time. I will also put some Microsoft official documentation down in the link description so you can have a look. So at the moment, I haven't really assigned anything here, no owners, no members, no roles. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I'm just going to go ahead and create it. Right, it can take a couple of seconds to be created. So this is the security group, or the Azure AD group that I've created. By default, it's always going to be a security group. The other type is distribution, but for this case, always use security. Now in here, as you can see, we've got Azure Privileged Access Preview. Be aware that this is still in preview. So just click Enable Privileged Access. Wonderful, so that's done. So let's go back to now at the moment it's just gonna show empty because we haven't really done anything with it. What you can do is actually you, instead of going into privileged identity management, you can add assignments directly from here as well. Now there are obviously a couple of roles for group membership. You can either become an owner on demand or a member on demand. I'm just going to select member for this testing purposes, and I'm going to select my user and done. Okay, eligible, and unlike for roles, you can have eligibility permanently, but for groups you can have eligibility up to a year maximum. So I'm just going to go ahead and click assign, and this user PIM1 shortly will be eligible to become a member of this security group. So it's a pretty cool concept. Not sure how often you would want that feature to be used in real life, but it's great to have. So I'm just gonna log back in. I'm already logged in as the test user. Just gonna refresh the page, and we'll just go into Azure Privileged Identity Management pane and click on my roles. All right. Now in here, you will see privileged access groups. This is where you would want to go. And as you can see, you have 2 groups you can access. I'm just going to go ahead and click activate. This one does not, I don't think has an approval process enabled. So it should just activate just like that. It can take a couple of minutes. Now, while we wait for that, I'll quickly also show you, instead of going through your emails for approvals, you can actually go to your Privileged Identity Management homepage and click on approve requests as well. This basically takes you, it skips the email, but obviously you need to know when to go here, so the email helps. But if you want to periodically check, you can come in here directly and check, and all the pending approvals will show up in here. Okay, let's see if okay, so this is my users, standard users user account. Now, if you go into active assignments, it will show you what roles or what privileged access groups that you've activated access to. And then in this case, as you can see, it'll show you the group that you've just activated. And from a user's perspective, you can see your expired assignments as well. Now, one other thing that I'd like to show to you is your audit history. So if you just come to the home page in Privileged Identity Management and click on My Audit History, that will basically give you a history of what's been going on, which is a pretty cool thing. And you can export that data as well if you like. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to stay tuned for more lessons on Microsoft services and Azure environment, please subscribe to my channel. And if you've got any questions, please don't forget to leave a comment, and I will answer them as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I will see you guys next week. Thank you. Bye bye.